know what is really important in professional wrestling? Theme music. Think about the amount of times you've never seen a performer before, but then they have a badass song, instantly you're like, well, I like this person, and I'm gonna support them from deep down in my toes. This has been going on for ages as well, so I, Simon here at What Culture, thought, why don't we go through every single year from 1990 all the way up to 2021 and rank what the best one was in that 12-month period. So sit your ass down, brew yourself a coffee, and let's go. Number 32, Hulk Hogan in 1990. I mean, it's sheer gibberish today, but you can't pretend in the late 80s and the early 90s that real American that accompanied Hulk Hogan as he came to the ring wasn't one of the greatest things we had ever heard in our life. I'm not going to sing all of them, but when it comes to Rick Derringer's piece of music, the whole dun 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 da 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 da, it just got you excited. It also sold you the entire character based on the lyrics alone, and it had something about it that made people go crazy. And I know when it comes to Hulk Hogan, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Well, what are you gonna do, brother? Number 31, The Undertaker in 1991. Jim Johnston should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, and the amount of characters that he has, in this case ironically, brought to life is frankly crazy. I mean, I will give you 700 years to try and come up with a better entrance theme than the one he gave to the dead man, The Undertaker. I mean, it's perfect. It is actually perfect, and it's also a little bit spooky, a little bit scary. Do not forget too that Mark Calloway took around about 78 years to get to the ring, but because the presentation was so damn good, you always wanted to see it every single time. I'm just going to stand here and clap, because this one will never ever get old. Number 30, Ricky Steamboat in 1992. Even though the wrestling business was about to go through a massive transformation, in 1992, Ricky Steamboat was just the best white meat babyface ever. He smiled, waved at people, worked his ass off in the ring, so WCW had to give him some music that represented all of that. Boy, howdy did they. It wasn't long for this world, as we know, but it was a feel-good romp, and it hit you with a dose of nostalgia. So this, my friends, is a forgotten gem. Go listen to it right now. Number 29, the Steiner Brothers in 1993. Another one that sounds absolutely ludicrous if you play it today. This just summed up exactly who Rick and Scotty Steiner were. Kind of sounded like a sports theme or some kind of fight song. It represented these two perfectly because they came out here looking like athletes. They also then killed people in the ring, so all of a sudden all of this started to click. Number 28, Bret Hart in 1994. I mean, you could put this as the best theme ever, and I would be totally fine with it. It brings a tear to my eye. I mean, from the opening guitar riff to the build in the verse, this is just my childhood summed up, and it just isolated exactly who Bret Hart was. It still works today too, which is why it's ridiculous that we jazzed it all up for Natalia and used it for the Hitman when he came back in 2010. That really pissed me off, because when you created magic, you don't throw it in the bin. Number 27, Razor Ramon in 1995. 12 months where gimmicks just ran amok throughout the WWF. One stood above all else. Razor Ramon may have been a play on the Al Pacino Scarface character, but the work we put in here, I mean, the look, the swagger, the toothpick, it was great. Razor also had that rarity that he actually felt cool when he was walking down the ramp, and when you heard his entrance music, you could just imagine being in a car driving down somewhere in Malibu. So this one is another Jim Johnston classic. Why hasn't somebody given him work? Number 26, Taz in 1996. I mean, he came out to War Machine by Kiss. Tick my box. And yeah, ECW didn't actually license any of these tracks and just waited for someone to knock on their door and say, can you stop doing that? But using a song as iconic as this, well, it did Taz the world of good. The opening also suited his mood, and by the time you got to the chorus, everybody was just shouting. And don't forget, when Taz got in the ring, he then dropped people on his heads. Is all coming together. Number 25, Mitsuhara Misawa in 1997. A juxtaposition, this one, even though I hate that word, but it is true. Because Misawa always held himself in a very stoic way despite being his legend, but his entrance theme was incredibly bombastic and, dare I say it, over the top. The grandiose piano set the scene for what the audience already expected. I suppose in many ways, we were setting the scene for what he was going to become rather than what he currently was. I don't even know what that means. Bottom line, it worked, and it told you that this guy was the man, And who the flub was going to argue with that? Number 24, Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998. It is back to the Bret Hart chat, really, because what is better than this? I mean, Jim Johnston decided, oh man, I'm going to write a Rage Against the Machine riff, and he came up with this. And my word, we couldn't have done it any better. I mean, who said we should have some glass breaking at the start? It was just like taking pop juice and sticking it into your face. And it was just so intelligent and it was just so clever. And I know there were variations of this throughout the years, and some people go, I think the one from 2001 was best. Look, man, you do you. The point is, when you go back to the original, we had created a masterpiece. Number 23, The Rock in 1999. Never forget that the start of The Rock's theme begins with him shouting. Kind of sums it up. This too was a constant source of change before he finally landed on the one that he still uses today. But my personal favourite was that one that went, The Rock says, The Rock says, The Rock, The Rock, The Rock says, know your role. I was like, I get it, Dwayne, get in there. Number 22, Kurt Angle in 2000. Forget that you could chant "you suck" to it, which made it even more entertaining. WWE just had this in a catalogue of songs that they'd use for other wrestlers, and my word, did it fit. I mean, it just screams, I'm better than you, and it kind of makes you feel like you're at an Olympic ceremony. I mean, come on. I mean, the man won a flipping gold medal, so you need something that sounded just a little bit triumphant. And as ever, we tried to move the goalposts throughout his career. But as I've already said many times, and I will say at least once more, there was no need. Number 21, Chris Jericho in 2001. Another banger this, because WWE nailed Chris Jericho's music on day one to the point I never thought he'd find anything better. And Judas is great, don't get me wrong, but the best thing about Break the Walls Down is that even when Jericho went from character to character to character, somehow this still fit in. You also thought this would have aged just a little bit because it is essentially metal rap hybrid, which was all the rage in the early 2000s, but it doesn't. It just makes me think of Y2J, and I enjoy that thought because he's really good. Number 20, Brock Lesnar in 2002. Much like Brock himself, this was simple, basic goodness. I mean, you don't need frills and spills when it comes to Lesnar. He is simply going to walk to the ring to a simply theme, and then he's simply going to knee you in the face. It's the little things that Brock added to it that really made it work. I mean, the little shuffle on the rampway, the fact that he jumped from the floor onto the apron, the throwing back of the arms. You just believe this shit. I don't think Brock has ever changed this either. Let's keep it that way. Number 19, Kenta Kobashi in 2003. It is back to Japan, and man, do they manage to just captivate massive atmospheres with crazy piano and bonkers guitar solos. This was like you were heading into space, but you're also a cartoon. This isn't your usual wash, rinse, repeat theme either. When you get to about 2 minutes in, the riff goes absolutely nuts as if you're taking a pummeling, which is kind of what Kenta did to his opponents in the ring. It also just had something about it which made his underdog wins even more grand. It was top draw. Number 18, Evolution in 2004. Triple H's The Game could also be on this list, but I think it's the fact that every time WWE went to Motorhead and said, oh, can you write us a theme, they came up with something brilliant. I mean, we could even mention the King of Kings. This just encapsulated what the group was about as well and made them feel like absolute badasses. Now, between you and me, I still don't really understand what evolution is a mystery means. I mean, what is the mystery? But look, Lemmy, he can do whatever he wants, and I'm gonna bang my head. Number 17, John Cena in 2005. All together now, do, John Cena sucks. It's just fun, we're having a good time. The intro is just too good not to get a reaction, and never forget that John Cena is on a list of wrestlers who sung their own theme tune. And given that the fans then rejected him, this didn't help at all. What a run of themes he had as well, because the Doctor of Thugonomics one was also pretty darn good. But let's face it, when it came to his massive rise in the mid-2000s, we were all listening to this. Number 16, Edge in 2006. This was pure fire. I mean, getting an alter bridge song to be your entrance theme could be the greatest thing alive because they just have riffs for days. And also, I don't know who made this decision, but they took Metalingus and they moved it around so it sounded more like wrestlers' entrance music. Flippin' terrific. Honestly though, the lyrics are also now super fitting given that Edge has made this massive comeback. And don't walk into my house start saying, what about Rob Zombie? What about Rob Zombie? Screw Rob Zombie. Not really, I do like him, but this is better. Number 15, Davey Richards in 2007. Easy one this, because Davey Richards used the Wasp song Charisma. I am that easily led. It kind of does sound like every hard rock song you've ever heard, but I think it's within that simplicity that the genius is found. Because when you do have a piece of music that you have to walk to, it's got to have a walking riff. Case in point. It also screams, hey, this guy is tough, which Davey Richards was. I mean, he was was also a little bit crazy. But hey, what wrestler isn't? Number 14, Dave Batista in 2008. Saliva and WWE were basically in love at one stage. If you needed a piece of music being producing, it would come from Saliva. But their home run is Dave Batista's theme. Because I Walk Alone is an absolute classic, especially because Batista used the peaks and troughs of the song to do all that machine gun stuff. And again, it was called I Walk Alone, so if you wanted to be a cheesy nerd, you'd be like, oh, it's called that because he's left Evolution and now he's walking alone. Another one that would be silly if we changed it at this point, I actually don't think that's going to happen because Big Dave is quite adamant that he's never coming back to wrestling, so we get to hold these memories forever. Number 13, Bryan Danielson in 2009. This is why Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson is the best, because when he was an indie warrior in 2009 and one of the best technical wrestlers on the planet, he came out to the Final Countdown by Europe. I mean, it made no sense that someone who was this good in the ring would come out to such a catchy tune, but who even cares? Don't pretend when it comes on you are doing the guitar solo with your hands and tapping your foot. It is the best. I also think it highlights that Bryan Danielson just understands how stupid wrestling is. So we may as well enjoy it on whatever level we can. Number 12, KENTA in 2010. KENTA was a cool wrestler. I mean, he came up with a bunch of moves. He inspired everyone. For a short time there, he was the flippin' man. He made sure that was part of his entrance too when he started walking out to T.I.'s What You Know. And not everybody can do that. Like if I tried to do it and wanted to be all hip, people would point at me and go, who's that bald dad? It just allowed KENTA to have all the swagger in the world, which he matched up when he got into the ring. And honestly, if you do not understand the influence that this man had, Google is your friend. Number 11, CM Punk in 2011. I mean, you can have Cult of Personality, you can have This Fire Burns by Killswitch Engage, which by the way was once meant for Randy Orton. All of them just fit CM Punk like a glove. The switch between these was actually quite smart as well, because when he was coming out to the Killswitch Engage track, it sounded like he was fighting against the establishment, but when he was coming out to the Living Colour track, it was like he was on top of the world. Mainly, I really like both because they have intros that you just want to react to, a must in any entrance song. Number 10, Hiroshi Tanahashi in 2012. I mean, it's called high energy, it's fun, it's exciting, it's a little bit crazy. I just think I summed the ace up. It matched his rock star charisma too, and somehow never stops building despite it being a song, and that doesn't make any sense. I mean, a song needs to peak and end at some point, but it never really does, which once again ties into Tanahashi, the legend that will never die. It embodied everything that the ace stood for, which is why all the fans got mad when he changed it, because you'd already smashed it. You didn't need to smash it again. Number 9, Kazuchika Okada in 2013. Remember how we talked about the importance of Stone Cold Steve Austin's glass break? Well, now we're moving on to Okada's coin drop. As soon as fans heard it, they just popped, and you knew, obviously, that this guy was money. It also has proper Japanese-themed guitar to boot, which just gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And I'm sorry to be that guy again, but it does kind of match what Okada did in the ring. It's also pretty damn majestic, which is what you're gonna need in your back pocket if you're continually breaking IWGP records. Let's just move on. Number 8, Kenny Omega in 2014. I don't think Kenny Omega has had one bad theme yet. I mean, it's either aping a video game or it has some kind of Terminator theme, which I'm never gonna mind. And in 2014, he was essentially walking out to Mega Man music, people. Mega Man. Given that that's how Omega wrestled too, because it's hard as nails and really fast, it gets the nod here. But look, you could choose any of them. I mean, I'm a gaming nerd, and even though I have difficult feelings when it comes to Final Fantasy, I still get it. I really, really do. Number 7, Sasha Banks in 2015. Another wrestler who is just cool. Sasha Banks' presentation was great. I mean, she called herself the boss. She couldn't come out to a fairy rhyme. And what she did have at the time felt confident, it was bubbly, kind of worked for both a babyface and a heel. It's catchy, and after a while, it was something that fans anticipated. They looked forward to hearing it. Banks nailed the entrance too with that weird backslide thingamajig that she used to do, because do not forget, every single hand motion of movement you could come up with has already been done in professional wrestling, and she was able to find a new one. Number 6, Bobby Roode in 2016. I mean, it didn't fit his character, but who cares? Any sports entertainer in the world would die for a theme like this. It got you over before you could say the word go. I mean, it was so well done that it was on my gym playlist for a while because it really got me pumped up, and it basically changed the gimmick of Mr. Roode, because all of a sudden he was the glorious one, because his entrance music went glorious. That was it. Rumor has it this was actually meant for Shinsuke Nakamura at one point, but who even cares? This is a one shoe fits all, and we don't even use it on SmackDown at the moment. That is nuts. Number 5, Kenny Omega in 2017. I know you're mad, you're like, how can he be in here twice? Just go and watch the entry for Kenny Omega round 1. What else do you want from me? Blood? Want to see some blood? We can't do that. YouTube will kick us off the air. Number 4, Johnny Gargano in 2018. Honestly, Time, I was never a massive fan of this, but you can't ignore a fan's positive reaction, and that's what Rebel Heart did every single time. I mean, it couldn't have been more Johnny Gargano, and it just had this likability factor, much like the man himself. Because when you heard this and then you saw his giant grin, you just wanted him to win. And you know that's true because it rhymed. Number 3, Jon Moxley in 2019. This was so good that when AEW changed it to Wild Thing, a really famous real song, I was disappointed. How does that even happen? But the weird engine-like guitar at the start, the frenetic riff, the fact it makes you feel like carnage is about to happen, I thought this was one of the best themes that AEW had. No, it's gone. It also told you that the guy walking out to it was really, really hard, and I don't even get how that's a thing. But it's the power of music. It just sends messages into your brain. Number 2, Chris Jericho in 2020. We talked about this already, but it's just so smart because not only did it give Chris Jericho a chance to get his band Fozzy even more over, but it gave fans something to sing to, and what fan isn't going to enjoy that? I mean, it's become a reason to go to an AEW show. It brings people joy. You know, it did a good job too, because when I first heard Judas, I thought it was a decent rock song, but now I think it's absolutely terrific, and it goes right on the playlist. It also gets your blood flowing. It somehow evolved the Chris Jericho character, and he can just use this till the end of his career now. He found the one. Number 1, Jungle Boy in 2021. It should come as no surprise that the last 2 entrance themes we've talked about are designed to get a crowd all pumped up and singing along. I mean, we have been deprived of that for around about 18 months. People are desperate for it. It's also re-establishing old trends because once again we are talking about licensed music. And wrestling used to do this all the time back in the day before it got brought in-house, and it did lose a little bit of the magic. Tony Khan has been doing this like crazy, and more power to him, and he did indeed go out there and get Tarzan Boy, meaning that when you do go to All Elite Wrestling, you can go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know what that was, but you see, look how much happiness it brings. Now, of course, there's going to be a ton of entrance themes that we have missed. Get in the comments below and let us know which ones also deserve a shout out. Then please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com where you can read articles like this. Come say hello on social media and we'll say hello back. And there's more videos on YouTube. Give one of them a click. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you for joining me as always, and I will see you soon.